A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams. Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet. Sit down, Sergeant Lee.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
Anything we need to address before we start? Anything off limits? I'm kidding.
Just please don't bring up Joey's record.
Don't bring up the tariffs. I'm sorry, they weren't my fault.
Wait, are you sure? Because
They
I'm
might
pretty
be, they
sure.
might be.
I'm pretty sure that they're called the Joey tariffs.
Yeah. No, nothing. I don't think there's anything off limits that I can think of. We'll find out.
Usually, well, our producer doesn't like us to talk about how little we made it for because
We're not.
well, we like talking about that because we think it's impressive, but for sales purposes, you don't want people to know how little you made it for. Yeah, you don't want to lowball yourself.
This is interesting. I mean, now that we're finding this out, because we were just talking about how amazing it looks, like as a film, and understanding like that this was kind of, you guys sort of jettisoned LA, right, and then came back to Austin, right?
Yeah.
And then did this film. Like as the kind of first thing out of the gate, and we were like, that's impressive, right? I mean, the way that things are cut together, the different types of shots, the lighting. So to hear it was made for not a ton of money, I think really makes it a lot.
I mean, I guess we'll talk a little. I don't actually care talking about it.
To me, that's like part of the story, and so I don't want to eliminate that. Yeah,
because I think it's an important thing for filmmakers to, hear about is, I don't know, you can go try to raise $2 million and you can spend 10 years doing that. And I have a lot of friends who are trying to do that and they've spent 5 to 10 years doing that. Or you can cobble together what you can get and back into something. And we built this screenplay and the script. I mean, I love all the artistry and everything creative we put into it. But we backed into what can we achieve? What are the resources we have? What are the locations we have? How do we make this amount of money look good on screen? And we're like, we have this amount of money. And most people who have this amount of money will be, okay, we have 2 girls and they are in an interrogation room and that is the entire hour and a half you're going to get. Right. And it's like, okay, how can we achieve with that amount of money something a little bit bigger? And that is how we built the story, was basically what costs money. Keeping actors on hold costs money. So we can't do that. We're going to have actors, these 2 actors are going to be here for these 2 days, and then they're done, and we can fly them out of town.
We're just going to shoot them like a bunch of shorts.
Shoot them like a bunch of shorts, and then cobble it together with connective tissue here and there. And I think we were able to achieve something that looks like a much bigger movie than what it was.
Well, and I think that just speaks to the artistry really, because we were talking on the way up here today, and it was like, we haven't seen these types of movies in about 25 years. This is the late 90s was the last time we got Suburbia and Dazed and Confused and Go and Can't Hardly Wait and all these wonderful ensemble comedies. But then to take that, none of those were technically low budget, right? I mean maybe Suburbia to a certain extent, but to do what you guys were able to pull off is really, really impressive. And so I guess my question is could you not think of a more difficult project to do for your first one out of the gate?
We really thought we were being humble at first with this, and then it just was wait, what do we mean? Because the idea of a hangout movie, you do think in your mind when you're conceiving it, it lends itself to maybe a lower budget situation, but then you realize, oh wait, we've got 14 characters, plus an additional 3 or 4 supporting cameo parts. We've got a moving vehicle, tons of night shots, exterior night shots, so that's all-nighters.
A dozen locations.
Yeah, dorm rooms that need to be dorm rooms, honestly. we definitely inadvertently bit off more than we could chew, but in some ways, I think the fact that we went into it thinking this isn't a big deal allowed us to kind of just operate like, yeah, this is achievable.
They were like, oh, we're making it cheap by not having explosions and a lot of action. But man, days are expensive regardless of whether there is, those things or not. But it was also testament. We used a lot of people who, this is part of our reason of coming back to Texas. And, not to crap on certain markets or anything like that. But, yeah, we had to come back to Texas to make a movie. We had to leave Hollywood to make a movie. And, there are great tax reasons to go many places in the country. And we're well below the qualifications to get such sort of tax credits and stuff. But, Austin and Texas in general is just a much more conducive place, at least for us.
That's where we had resources.
That's where we had resources. We had parents who were willing to come do our craft services, and we could, we didn't pay for any of the locations in our shoot. It was we went, but we didn't have that hard a time getting it. It was walking into a convenience store and saying, "Can we shoot here?" And from walking in the door to walking out with a handshake agreement was 5 minutes. And it was the second place we asked. And it didn't cost us anything. The guy, we showed up at he said, come back on that day, come in at 10 p.m., I'll give you the keys, I'll be back at 7 a.m., please don't wreck the place. You have insurance? Great. And that was it. And we have a location. And this is in the middle of Austin. This isn't somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. This is 10 minutes from the 10 minutes from the Capitol. So,
yeah. But isn't that part of the Austin mystique too? I mean, in terms of Texas. I mean that kind of. I know you joked about the terrorists, right? But that kind of blueberry and that kind of weirdness and that kind of neighborliness, I guess.
Yes.
Right? Or it is a community. It's this community in a big city that's continuing to grow. But that's what you get, right?
It's a town that's. I mean, I think this is true of we're as we're making more stuff in Texas, we're finding this from our other fellow Dallas filmmakers and Houston filmmakers and everything else. It's, even in the cities, people are still excited about movies. In LA,
it's
nobody's
counter to
excited.
what you think.
It's counter to what you think.
People are sort of I'm a little nervous because everyone wants to do this and they kind of don't really trust you and.
They've been burned before by other productions. It's just not an exciting proposition for almost anybody to do. So, yeah.
This is, going back to the type of film this is, this is such a smart film, at least I think so, right? The kind of walking and talking aspect of it is something that I'm a sucker for, right? That kind of meandering, the form and content fit together perfectly, right? Because it's a meandering talking movie, but then they're also meandering to this party. But I wondered if you guys would speak a little bit more on the central metaphor, right? That conceit of never getting to the party. And I know this is an audio format and I'm making scare quotes, right? No one else can see. But I think that's really interesting. And it did you think of Buñuel when you okay.
Yep. Go ahead. You can start. I'll start with just the inspos are exact. You guys nailed it. The inspos are obvious. They're obvious, but we stand on the shoulders of giants or whatever. But it was Dazed and Confused. These were the Linklater things are the things that inspired us that we wanted to recreate and we wanted to be, there are a lot of indie films where it's all about raising the stakes and it's how big, and it's no, we're not going to do that. We don't want to do that. And we pitched it when we were going out and raising the little bit of money we have. We jokingly called it was Can't Hardly Waiting for Godot. Was their sort of mashup, talking about the thing that you're never going to get to see.
Yeah, we don't get there.
We don't get there. But I don't know, you talk about some of the themes.
I think we had just seen so many party movies before, and frankly, there are a couple of factors in this. I feel one, at the budget level we were at, that would be kind of hard to do, to pull off a movie that took place entirely at a party. Also, I'm just I'm a bit of a mellow person. I'm an indoor cat. I'm not a super party girl anyway. So I was I'm not going to be able to write something that really resonates with people who have had batshit experiences at parties. Sorry, I don't know if I can say it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was also just for me, I have had some amazing nights at parties and understand the crazy stories that people tell about them. But for me, the interesting part is always the bits of the evening that you assume are not going to be interesting, that are not going to be a momentous chapter in the book of your life. And weirdly, I just always find that those things that you're not that kind of sneak up on you, those moments you're not expecting, like that is what helps you remember the night more than a party experience that frankly you can have a dozen times, but like how often are you're going to recount the night that we got lost and could not find the party more than the party itself,
And I love the parking garage bit. I absolutely just love that bit of the architecture and like civil planning where these two guys are like, oh my God, yeah, parking garages.
That was important to us. It was like, it's a dumb little metaphor. It's like, it ain't sexy. It's not, they're not looking at, my favorite architect is I.M. Pei. Like, they're not doing that. It's it's these weird civil engineering major, and it's like, that's like the thing that they're into, and I don't know.
But it sticks out, and I think it speaks to like the kind of weird but banal things that we're all into, right? I mean, we all have our own parking garage, like fetish. I don't know.
And then
the things we'll get on soapboxes about and talk about for way too long. Yeah.
And it is like my favorite shot. One of my favorite shots in the entire movie is when they finally reach the top of the parking garage, and you get the whole Austin skyline, and it's the prettiest shot in the whole thing. And they're standing on a very, I don't know,
utilitarian structure.
Yeah. It's like right next to like, I don't know, that one is like on the 8th. No, it's on a 12th. It's just like, I don't know, it's like the DPS parking lot in Austin. It's like a state parking garage. But I don't know. Speaking of the theme, I don't know, something else that I think really we probably want to hit on about the themes that we were trying to hit on was sort of as a reaction to other party movies and other teen movies that we had seen. And it was a dual thing of, we were trying to make what we jokingly refer to in our mind as like a coming-of-age movie for a bunch of people who thought they already came of age. And it's like they thought they had their moment already, or they thought they're about to have the moment. And the whole joke is, there's not a moment. There's not a moment. It's a sequence of these small interpersonal human things, and there isn't the big party doesn't mean anything at all. And then at the same time, we were reacting a little bit to, I don't know, we're no longer this age, and with like a little bit of distance, we have some fondness of looking back on this age. And even though this is the part I think we were a little not sensitive about, but we were unsure of, is, I was in college in like 2006, almost 20 years ago, and like there was an innocent, in my mind looking back, it feels innocent, but it wasn't innocent at the time. And there's a lot of, I think there's frankly a lot of like fear mongering about younger generations. And I'm sure for some people in LA, euphoria is what kids are going through. But in our experience,
we weren't in that income bracket.
We weren't in that income bracket.
We could not live the Bret Easton Ellis lifestyle, right? Yeah.
If you weren't Bret Easton Ellis or grew up like, I don't know, going to Crossroads or the fancy drugs high schools in LA, like that's not what your life was like. And nothing against that. That's like super provocative and cool
and compelling
yes, on HBO. But like that doesn't feel like it accurately represents most kids' experience. And most kids' experience, not that we were trying to be overly innocent or overly PG or something like that, but it's like, it's just not that exciting. It's not that fun. It's not that crazy. If most kids' first drug experience is not that crazy, it is, you had a gummy and you're not sure if it was actually weed or CBD or anything else. You're not really sure if you're feeling anything.
You made a bong out of a paper toilet roll or like.
And the extent of your alcohol is you had like a little shooter that three of you split. You're not getting trashed, like. But because that's, I don't know, it felt much more honest and accurate to our experience of the thing. But
one, I think you talk about like standing on the shoulders of giants, but I do think that one of the things that you guys expertly and smartly avoid is the evolution of these comedies that went like post Hangover and post American Pie, which was ramping up the
Project X,
right. Ramping up the kind of raunchy aspect of it, and you really do bring it back to kind of like a early Bong Bak, like Wes Anderson feel, like these are real true stories that these kids are having.
That's a very lovely thing to say. Thank you. My God.
Let's go edit the poster real quick.
Yeah. Add that pull quote. Yeah. We definitely wanted it to be a little softer. I find that, again, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do American Pie well. Like, it's just like, that's not our voice, really. I think it's really funny, and I think it's a incredible movie. But we wanted to explore this in the voice that we are comfortable, not just comfortable using, but the voice that like we feel speaks to our ability.
Yes, I think absolutely. Anyway, during the edit, this was like an issue that we had, and it was something that we did have on. Like, in hindsight, I'm really glad where we landed with our tone and with what the style of comedy is. It's a comedy, but it's not.
The first cut, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. The first cut was like, it thought it was a studio comedy, but the thing is, we don't have the budget to be a studio comedy, so then it's weird when it's edited like a studio comedy, a much broader, more bombastic thing, you know.
And we didn't have those jokes, and we didn't have the budget, and we didn't have those like gags to do that. And we didn't want to do it when we set out to do it, and then we made it, and then somewhere in the edit we sort of like, oh, we got to punch up this joke, and then eventually I think we found a way. It's like, no, like have the courage of our convictions that like they're charming enough, you like these people enough, there's enough humor here without doing the like reaction shots and whatnot.
Well, and I think that's something else that we were talking about is why this is so effective for us is because it did feel authentic to your voice, right? It didn't feel like you were reaching for jokes, and you didn't do the easy thing of like when the girls take the gummies, you know, they see tracers or something silly like that, right? It was just like, wait, do you feel it? I feel it. And the conversation like lets us know. And then again, like having that conviction to go, we're not going to do this. We're going to stick with this, right? All of that, I think, contributes to at least how we read the film as being so true to that, so authentic, right? And so well done. Because you're right. If you would have done something else, it wouldn't have worked.
I don't think we could have pulled it off. I think it would have felt inauthentic. And I think something that I've worked with a lot of like indie films. I've produced a handful of like indie films, and something I think that I see fail the most with indie films is you're trying to achieve something that's like, if you had a bigger budget, this would work. And it's a good idea, and the script might actually be good, but you don't have the resources to pull this off in a way that's going to convince the audience that they're in this world where something like this would happen. And it's a classic thing of like, I see a lot of like 22-year-old dudes doing like a mob movie with a bunch of their 22 to 25-year-old friends, and it's like, this just I'm not buying this world. And from production design to everything else, you're just never going to get there. And it's best not to. I don't know. You should be ambitious, but like, if you go too far, you're not going to be able to pull this off, and you're really setting yourself up for a big disappointment.
Right. But it's knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And again, what I really love is hearing you both say that you're using your own experiences in this film, right? Because again, that comes through as well in that authentic voice.
And not just our own experiences. The streaking bit, which everyone is always like, oh, I think some people find it hard to believe, and I want to be like, that happened to my father. He went streaking in an empty building and locked his clothes in a classroom. And like, this is something I didn't know until I was 30 years old. And I was like, why have you never told me this story?
Why would he?
Yeah, I mean, fair. Maybe thank you for not telling me, but yeah.
Come on now. Sit down at the table.
It's Thanksgiving. Let's do this.
Yeah.
But the way that is done, right? I mean, that comes through that story, and so it's going to have that that feel, that authentic, that real kind of feel. That we're not stretching here, right? We're not talking about things we don't know.
Right. For sure.
And I think one of the things you do so well too is like it's not just a comedy, right? You also then pull back, and this movie has a clear, like, I think it follows along those lines of like Can't Hardly Wait in these movies where you start to feel a slight shift where people start to get like, it's that late moment in the night, right, where you start to get really real with your friends and things start to get deeper. And almost every single one of your like vignettes has that moment, and it's really, really well done. Was there something like where you had to maintain the tone from comedic to pathos?
You're laughing, and I don't know what you're.
How hard that was. How difficult it was to pull that off.
So again, they do say you make a movie 3 times in the writing, and the production, and in the edit. And unfortunately, it is true. There's no way around it. And in the edit, we realized that the things that were working in the script, like a lot of these stories kind of cresting or like, what is the opposite of cresting? I'm a writer, I should know. Dipping?
Nadering.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They were all reaching like their lowest moment at the same time. And in the script, that's fine. A little, like you just are a little bit more generous as a reader. You're kind of like, I see, like we're in this moment, the, dark night of the soul. And when we were in the edit, it just became very clear. We were like, oh, we're hitting the same beat over and over again. We have to. and we had to basically card the entire movie and like go back and like move things around from where they were in the script so that it felt like certain things were wrapping up earlier than we thought they would, like the laundry scene. I think that one wraps up pretty early, actually. And we're just trying to like make sure we had that variety because it's something that we're just not aware of as we were writing it. But then once we saw the footage, we were like, oh, we're hitting this same note again and again. We got to spread this out.
Every movie changes a lot in the edit. I do think this one changed more than most because of the just like structure of it is for people who have not seen it yet. Every time we'd have a discussion about it, it would be like, it's kind of like Ocean's 11 in that you're following a lot of different characters, except you don't need the Ocean's 11 thing where this key card needs to go to this guy and this scene is like, we can switch the order of these things. So we had a lot more freedom to move things around, which was great. And it was such a blessing and such a curse at the same time where like, I think if you were to go through like, okay, this scene is on this page number, or I guess just go through like the scene number ordered, there are probably no 3 to 4 scenes that are in the same order on the screen as they were in the script. Like everything has been moved around. There are scenes that occurred in the script 20 pages later than where they now occur in the movie. And we had that freedom because this laundry room scene doesn't need to happen before this other scene. We can put it after. It was great. It gave us a lot of freedom to sort of play with this tone, but it also like we weren't sure when it was done. Like we weren't sure when we were done editing because we're like, can we move these around to achieve a different edit?
And
so
yeah.
And I think this is interesting from like a writer standpoint or an artist standpoint where we all have our ticks, right? And it's only sometimes after, right, we're done that we see those ticks and we're like, oh, that doesn't work, right? Like I love repetition, but sometimes repetition is just way too much, right? Like you need to get rid of it.
Oh, absolutely. Like you answer for all your crimes in the edit for sure. But I also think that it really speaks to not being overly precious about it because ultimately it's more about taking what you've got and making that the best it can be than like trying to stick to some preconceived notion. I mean, I know everyone talks about like have your vision, and that's true, but like you're going to end up with some different stuff, and so you got to stay flexible. And I'm glad.
And sometimes your vision is it's hard when you know like that courage of your vision versus I was envisioning this and it's not quite working the same way. We have talked about this a lot when we've talked about press, but like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, maybe my favorite scene, is gone. It was the deepest, darkest moment of the soul. It was supposed to be everybody's like, lowest point, and it's a monologue by one of our characters. Basically, he goes in the bathroom and he calls his mom, and he's just telling him about a hard time that he's having. And we shot it as a oneer, and it's a 3-minute monologue of him talking about the thing, and it says everything we were trying to say in the movie. It wraps up all the things about like, I thought I would be ready. I thought I'd be bigger. I thought I'd do all these things. And it's beautiful. It makes me cry. It is the saddest thing that we had, and it's gone. And we found we didn't need it. And it made everything else feel cheap by comparison. And we're like, this is so good, but it's almost too good.
It made the other poignant moments feel less significant because it was so hitting you over the head with, this is a moment where you should be crying. Whereas now I feel like those moments are a little bit more subtle, and you pick up more and more each time you watch them, I hope, on the subtlety of that.
And this is the character who left his pillow at home.
Yes.
Right?
Nelson.
Whose mom can't get through. This is, but we get the idea, right? He's trying to find reception because his mom is trying to contact him, right? And he wants to contact her. So we sort of understand the dynamic anyway, that we don't need that.
It was tough because we were like, you set up all these characters, and when you have, this is the great part about having an ensemble thing, you get all these different waves you can ride, but then you get really, you're like, but I got to pay each one of these off. And some of them you're like, maybe I don't need to pay it off, or maybe I don't need to get that person's beat. And you feel like you're short shrifting the character or short shrifting these things. And if you have just one hero, okay, we know what theirs is and everybody else is secondary. But in this, you want everybody to get a little bit of the spotlight, and you're not sure if you're hurting one of your characters by doing that, but I don't know. But it's for the better of the movie.
Yeah, kill your darlings.
I was just going to say kill your darlings. I was, okay.
So in an effort, or in a movie like this, from an outsider's view, it seems like it lends a lot to improvisation. And so was there a lot of that on set? How much freedom did the actors have? Because one, you have a brilliant set of actors, and I think some of them are just like, I mean, they're just amazing. But I just wonder if you can speak to how much fluidity there was on set.
It's funny because I was thinking more about this actually, because we've talked about this, and I'm realizing it is dependent on the character themselves, because not just because of the actors. Like Alicia, who plays Harris, is very comfortable improvising. You can't get him to say just the lines on the page. He didn't say any of the right lines,
but he didn't need to.
Same with George Basil, who plays the cashier.
I love George Basil. I absolutely love George Basil.
I think there were several takes that were ruined because everyone was just cracking up the whole time. And yeah, he did something different every time. So it was almost like, can we just make the entire movie this scene, actually?
There's a TV show about his character, right?
Yes,
there just is.
He's so good.
And reading teeth marks, right?
Gosh, yeah, where did that come from? But Trevor, who plays Ryan, would always... Because, Alicia gets to, be very neurotic and babbly and say all of these things.
Ryan
and Trevor,
is the tall
Trevor would
guy,
always be like, can I say something else? And I'd be like, no, you can't, because that's the whole thing, is you have to be a different dynamic than him. And so in that way I felt bad, because I could tell he really wanted to play and wanted to improvise. And I was like, I promise you this is funnier if you don't.
If he's playing a straight man.
Yes, exactly. The less you're giving him and the more you let him spiral off into the stratosphere, the funnier it is. And so it was really character dependent, honestly.
And that was nice about the structure a little bit, is there were different levels of ability with improv based on our different actors. And we worked with mostly young actors. It was important for us to do that. We wanted to cast we mostly succeeded, but we wanted to cast for all of our characters other than like Matt and Missy, who are supposed to be the older couple on the balcony. For everybody else, we were as best we could. We're like,
I thought his name was Marty.
Oh, Marty. I said his characters. Yeah, Marty. Yeah. Oh. No. Whoops. We wanted to cast people who were as close to 18 to 22 as possible, because we're like, it just reads different having a hot 30-year-old play an 18-year-old than an actual 18-year-old. They're kids, and we wanted to highlight this fact that they're ready for that wild experience, but they are 4 months away from high school. They're not adults yet in that way, and they're trying on those things. So we wanted to get these people who were actually 18 to 20, and they look different. They're a little less with it. They're a little less developed. They, still having some pimples, and that was okay for us. But because of that, like, we're getting actors who are a little bit greener and a little bit fresher and haven't done 6 years of UCB yet. And like, not that they weren't great. They were great, and we were able to work with them a lot. And we both have a pretty big improv background, and so we were able to get them there. But there was that level of difference in abilities with it, which actually made the structure of like having the different vignettes. It wasn't that like, okay, there's one really good improviser on set and everybody else is trying to do that thing, and some people are failing at it. It was, okay, this scene, they don't realize how much the other scene improvise, and this scene, we need to keep them tighter on script so they don't actually know what the other scene's got to do. And so we were able to silo information a little bit and keep them what the tone needed to be for that scene.
I will say that there is a scene in the movie that is entirely fabricated, that was not in the script, and it is the car girls when they are talking about time. Anastasia was just like
riffing.
I don't think they even realized we were filming. I think they were just like in character, and that's why at the end they laugh together, and that's a genuine break.
So that goes back to, so we were driving up here and we were like, this feels like Rachel and Io and Bottoms.
Yeah.
And that just goes to that improvisation scene as well. Those two really played off each other really well.
Yeah, their chemistry was great.
I think it was a really fun dynamic too, because we were, they were in the car and we're in the truck in front of them. So I must feel like because they were in their little bubble, they got slowly more comfortable just like trying stuff out, and it was
the nature of what we were shooting to, where it was like, we're going to do this loop. It's going to take about 30 minutes. I'm on the radio with them. We're just going to run through the same scene 6 or 7 times, and they just got really comfortable, and then And we're just rolling. We're just rolling for that long, and they got really comfortable. And there were moments where they would just talk for a while, and I was like, I'm gonna let them go for a bit, and we're gonna capture this for later. And we were getting kind of loopy because it was like 4 a.m. in West Campus in Austin, and
Oh man.
yeah. My dad driving
Yes.
the car.
Driving the rig.
But yeah.
I think one of the other things, I mean, you obviously, this is clearly, well, I wouldn't say clearly, because I think from a non-Texans perspective, this is Austin. This is an Austin story, but I think you guys very smartly don't make it too Austin, right? I mean, you clearly don't make it University of Texas, but you also
they
don't
wouldn't
make
let
it. Right, sure, right? But you also don't, this is a relatable film. So we were talking on the way up here, it was like, this is a film that, again, in the VHS era or early DVD, this is something you just put on. You would always have this on. You'd be watching this 1,000 times. All right, this would just be your background movie. And I think you guys I think it was a really smart choice to not make this specific to, even though people who are from there will know, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think we have certain pet peeves of like Austin, iconography that we're not going to include that. One, because it's too obvious, and 2, because we probably can't afford it. So
we can't show the tower, so we have the boys talk about the tower off screen. Yep.
Gosh, I don't even remember how much that would have cost, but too much. So I think that was definitely part of it. But we wanted to be true to our experience, and we did want to almost create a little snapshot, because Austin is changing so much. I mean, I think there are places that we feature that are not long for this world, because there's a new light rail going in. Yep. And yeah, oh my gosh, the 21st Street Co-op, whenever that goes,
I'm sure
that'll
that's
be
going to
crazy.
be going. Dirties we drive by, I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be going.
Yeah.
Wheatsville, I don't know.
Wheatsville is gone.
It's gone
Wheatsville
now.
Co-op, which
I was
is
gonna
a
say,
joke.
by the time you go back, some of that stuff might be gone. Right?
And so it was important to us to capture those things that were both important to Austin, important to our experience there, but they weren't like, I don't know, you have a rom-com in Chicago and they're standing under, and they have their date at the Bean, or like whatever, it's like, nobody does this. So it was places like the Cloakroom, the bar that we go to. Like that was special to me, because I was like, I want to shoot at that place. It is weird, it's scuzzy, it's no offense, it's awesome. It's not charming in a way that's obvious at all, and it's just like, why is this bar? There's nothing else within 5 blocks of here, and it's right across from the Capitol. And it's like, I went there because I would be like, we're walking home from 6th Street back to West Campus, and this place, we can probably get in with our not quite legal identification cards. And it's like, that was important to us. And highlighting spots like that were, if you know, you know, but if you don't, it's not going to be alienating.
Right. But even if you didn't know which bar that was,
yeah.
So many of us have been in that bar, right? Or have been regulars at that kind of bar. And you understand the charm that is wrapped up in the weirdness and the scuzziness, right?
Totally.
And the sort of desperation that's there as well.
Well, and even again, Dale Watson, who is the bartender, not a lot of people, like our friends in LA who watch it, they don't know who he is.
Who's
and
that
it's
weird
that's
leathery
fine.
old guy? I'm like,
that's fine. Either way, he sells you on his role. But if you know, it's just an extra little Easter egg, and that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I wanted to talk about the characters again for a second, just because I think that you do such a great job of, and I think I've said this enough times, right? You've done a great job with this film. I love this movie.
No, keep saying it. I love hearing
actually,
it.
And I will.
Yeah.
But I love the variety of characters, right? From the 2 older students and their story, right? And their respective story of why they're there at school at a later age. But to the young black man who's afraid to be naked, right? Or who appears afraid to be naked, to the girl who wants to lose her virginity. There's such a range that I think is relatable, but we all know that person, right? Or we've been that person.
Sure.
And to that, these all feel so true to form, right?
That's great. I'm like,
yes.
Thank you. That's amazing.
No. To compliment Lindsey, who wrote these characters, we started with a big whiteboard, and these are the characters that survived. When we were building the story together, we had 40 different characters of somebody who does this, somebody who does it, and each one was based on a piece of ourselves, of that time I got drunk at the thing, that time you got stood up there, and we had those things, and sort of we would sort of go down the rabbit hole with each one of those and sort of culled it down to the most interesting on their own and the most interesting and the most sort of like diverse different perspectives that we could get for this story. It was really nice, and I do like this. We're both really attracted. It's like some of my favorite films. I like Nashville is one of my top all-timers, and I love the ability to just drop in and out of these stories. And Altman does it, of course, and all of us, again, living in those shadows. But like these stories where what I like so much about these structures of these types of movies is I don't know, you watch too many movies and you get really tired of most main character syndrome, where it's like, she's just a tough gal and she rolls over and she hits the alarm clock and takes a swig of whiskey, and it's like these like perfectly imperfect characters who have to encompass everything.
Who have to be the audience surrogate.
Who have to be the audience surrogate in a way that's frankly boring. And it's like, these are boring characters.
They're boring tropes.
They're boring tropes. And it's hard to get like a really good central lead character. And because we're not as talented as to make one individual character, we're basically like, it's easier sometimes to be like, I can make this a weird, fun character, and they don't need to be strong enough to support an entire story. They can be a little freaky and a little weird, and we kind of have a mantra whenever we're writing together is no main characters. Every character, even if it's going to be the person who leads the story, they don't get to be a main character in that way, because it's a recipe for a boring hero's journey type. So,
and something you've seen over and over and over again, right?
They're still dynamic characters, right? These are not static cardboard characters.
Sure.
None of them. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think that's even
No
more
caricatures
impressive,
here,
right?
right? I mean,
right. And oftentimes they really eschew the obvious, right? So going back to that idea of no main characters, no hero's journey, your characters, they go left when everyone thinks they're going to go right.
That's great. That makes me happy to hear. I feel like it's just more fun to play with that way. I feel like, again, not to weirdly bring it back to improv again, but if you are doing some sort of scene like that, the whole point is that you have a game. You know, you're not just like, I'm here and I'm like a little insecure, but I'm well adjusted. I am normal by and large. Like, no one wants to see that. They want to see someone who has a little game, and that's so much more fun when you're writing, because then you're like, oh, I want to see them bounce off other people. And I think like, and even a character like Ryan, like, who is pretty stoic, like, I think he started out maybe a little bit more traditional, and slowly Trevor even asked me this the other night. He was like, I think Ryan's on the spectrum. And I was like, you're right. And it's like just these small things where you're like, oh yeah, like there's something a little bit askew about all of them that is just so much more fun to watch and play with.
Well, they're more real too in that way.
Right. Hopefully.
So with a cast this large and the characters like well drawn, was there any sort of change based on someone you found for a role that moved a character in a different way?
Yes, a lot. I'm off the top of my brain. Pizza guy, Frankie, Pizza Man. That was like a nothing part. And it was like one line. And
he was auditioning for something else.
He was auditioning for another part. We liked him, and we're like, he doesn't fit for this part that he's auditioning for. He's older than like what we can't put him with these other kids. Like the age difference will be too great. So we need to find it, and we're like, let's put him in this role and let's give him a little bit more and let him like let's give him some lines, because this is something that we want to mine and we want to pull out of here. I don't know. I'm trying to think of. This was a really interesting one. Lila. So Izzy and Sloane. These are the girls in the bedroom. Odd couple that slowly become friends and do the makeup. Lila, she plays our girl who's excited to go on her date. This was very much imagined as a very different character when I think we wrote it. We had Gates, the sort of cool girl in the corner. We had her cast. She was a friend of ours. We knew we wanted to go with her. And we were trying to find the opposite of that. And the opposite of that in our mind, we were thinking, you know, Glinda and Elphaba. We were thinking
right.
like
a bubbly blonde kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bubbly blonde Texas
or someone who was
sorority girl.
attempting to like
embody that
right.
person.
Yes.
And then Lila came in, the girl that we got, and she was so much unoffensively, so much weirder than that. She's weird. She's a really
She's got a great gravelly voice.
A gravelly voice.
Yeah.
She sounds kind of like a gremlin, and it's like this was so much more interesting. And we're like, oh, this girl thinks she's Elle Woods, but she is not, and like wants to be that. And it was such a like, oh, it's not cool girl versus like cool art girl versus blonde bubbly girl. It's this arts girl versus this other thing, and it totally amped up the like. It allowed us to go much sadder with that scene, where you feel a lot more for this girl when you find out where it's going. You're like, oh, this breaks my heart, because you want this girl to get a party. It's not like, sorry, not to do the trope, it's not the party girl that you expect to be like, who cares? It's like, this is like a girl who really desperately wants to belong and can't get there.
Right, yeah, she wants that big moment, right? It's almost like a coming out
moment.
party.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, I mean, it's so touching, where it's like, no, this one doesn't count. It's okay. This one doesn't count.
Yeah. And I really also loved the idea of that character being, I feel like this is one of my favorite things about getting older, is experiencing like people you write off as annoying as three-dimensional humans who are just like, yeah, maybe you're not my cup of tea, but also like you got a good heart. And like, it's just kind of that thing of like, that's really like a nice moment when you're like, ah, shit, we're going to be friends, aren't we? You know, like there's not a lot in common here, and yet here we are. And that's, I don't know, I just was like, that's kind of the fun thing about meeting people, you know, and living life with people. And I was glad to be able to have that on screen.
And that's another thing about this film, is there's so much acceptance, but it's not cloying, right? It's not sentimental, and it's not
on Front Street for sure.
Right. It's not like apparent, and it doesn't like follow that traditional like, oh, now I accept you for everything. It's just like it's a subtle kind of slow melding together of people. And I just, I mean, again, that kind of zigging when you're supposed to zag.
Thank you. And that was part of what we wanted with the
we were nervous about it. I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to see this and be like, what a bunch of saps. You know, I don't know. You just don't know. You get so close to it that you can't see it.
It might be a little sappy, but
I
don't know. I don't mind
But it isn't like a good way. So like our queer student, right? When he meets, and I'm sorry, I forget.
No, it's okay.
I think
we forget the names too, because we have so many characters. Right. We don't say many of their names.
I know. And
we
people
refer to them
even
as the
made
actor
that
thing, 'cause
note, and we were like, we can't do it naturally. I don't think we can do it.
Yeah. We should just name them.
When he talks about being, nervous or afraid to make friends, and then he runs into the streaker at the party, and he's like, "You look familiar," and he's like, "Oh, I have a face like that." He's like, "That's not the face." But it's like lines like that, and then you see them sort of like running around the party together. Like that is a perfect kind of like coming together, I think, right? A perfect kind of meeting, right? Because that callback comes back, and
we hope that the audience sees a seed of a thing, and that was also important to us in the one night movie, the one party movie, and to the point of like, there's no such thing as one party that's going to change your life for the most part. It was like, even this night is not going to change your life for the most part, but it might in these little ways.
There are seeds of change.
There's seeds of change. Each one of these characters, if they're going to change, it's going to be this much, or it's going to be the start of something. And we want you to feel what is the least amount of change that will make you feel satisfied, but that you believe you could do this in 6 hours. But maybe not, but you're not going to change your total personality. You're not going to become that person overnight.
Right. And again, a lesser film does that, right? A lesser film tries to do all of that of like, oh, it's a brand new person now, right?
Yeah.
They're in love. They're in our hot romantic scene. Ain't no kiss. They're not kidding. We're not going to get
people
this.
that, Joey.
Oh, I'm
we
sorry.
want them to watch the movie.
It is a really good looking kiss. But no, I mean, it was like, there's the start of something here, and they admit to it by the end, but we're not going to go all the way there in one night. But
And I like any film that like calls out the meet cute. That does the meta
we were
meet
worried that
cute
might be a
thing.
little too meta. I don't know.
I feel like especially when you're older and you're like, we did meet in a weird way, so I guess we have to, acknowledge that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more. The one scene I wanted to talk about is not necessarily in a specific way, just because it meant something to me, but going along those same lines of finding yourself changing, even slightly ways. My favorite scene in the movie is the dryer scene, and where those two characters, they're dealing with a girl who's trying to be vulnerable and is vulnerable in this moment of like trying to make this big step in her life, and then realizing that they're probably a little bit too cynical. They're not as cool as they thought they were. And that moment when they're sitting on the dryer and the guys and the male character is like, I know I'm not the right target audience for this, but there's something here. It's really, really funny and really, really genuine. I think that was really
a nice little meta joke that we were hoping nobody's in the audience being like,
right.
He said it, not me.
Yeah, that was That, I feel like that was our first 2 days of shooting, the laundry room scenes. And Shona even called this out during our Q&A recently, where she was like, it's so interesting because I feel like you see the change, like, the laundry room people obviously came back later because then we had them at the party. So we had them on a totally different day coming back in. And she was like, yeah, it was crazy. I feel like you guys were different at that point too. Like we got to see you guys change. And I was like, wow, that was really lovely.
That was a hard scene to do for us. That was one where it looks not nearly... That again, we did not want it. We did not want something good looking there. It's like these rooms are ugly. These are ugly rooms, and like we had so much thought and energy. And I'm not sure if I'm not exactly sure where I landed on it, but like they're ugly spaces, and like we wanted to be like, this is a visually very different place from everything else. It's not the cool nighttime. It's an ugly white laundry room, but we still need to have people want to look at it for a little while, and we need to have these people in it. And how can we make it prettier? How can we make it weirder? How can we hang up clothes and add color to this space? And it was also our first 2 days of shooting. We were like, everybody's finding their sea legs. We had the most like technical issues in every department were on those scenes. And in the edit, I think we were the most self-conscious about that scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we weren't sure if we were hitting the tone right. We weren't sure how it was playing. That was one I think...
We were worried about it seeming moralizing.
That was probably the one from a writing point of view we were the most scared of, because we weren't. We went around that a lot. We were really worried, and when we did some test screenings, there were some mixed reactions on that scene. That was probably maybe one of the most mixed reactions was that scene, and I don't know if we were just like self-consciously feeling this. We felt like we're not trying to say don't have sex. Like that wasn't what we're trying to say. It was more about like this girl wanting to do a thing, these two people, you think it's an advice-giving scene, and then you realize your advisors are full of shit, and that they should not be giving, and they shouldn't be doing this. And it's the two people you think are teaching should be the one learning from this person, and having this vulnerable moment between the three of them. But we were worried for a time. It felt like, are people going to think this is like a... you know what, sex is bad type of scene, and we were like, ugh.
You're like, are we?
We felt like Matthew the
we were
RA being
prudes.
like, sometimes premarital sex not as cool as you think.
Exactly. It's like
we
weren't trying to be anti-euphoria that much. We weren't trying to do like
exactly.
That's not what we felt. We just didn't want it to be. I don't know. How do you not make? We don't want to make funny movies, but we didn't want to make Old School and Animal House like that raunchy sex comedy. But we also, because it didn't feel honest, but we also didn't want it to feel like that's not a part of this experience. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the only scene. If I'm not mistaken, those are the only two characters that have like a meet at the party, right? Where she meets another one of the vignettes. And then comes back to her friends because there's a realization there were
those two groups.
Right.
Yeah. Those two groups come together. We have like a couple more.
Yeah.
It's LB and Clark.
LB
it turns
Clark.
out have been talking about each other the whole time.
Right. And then Gavin and
Noah.
Yeah.
We had a couple small little ones in there, like P. Terry's. You have those girls run into those boys. Yeah. But I mean, they're small. Like that was. If we could do it again, this was by construction. We wanted them to be standalone things. We had a couple other things that were supposed to run into each other, but for sort of timing and logistics reasons had to get cut. I would want to do a little bit more connective tissue between them. But it was by construction. It was like kind of the limitation we had was we kind of got to do them separate. But I would like a couple more.
Well, this is freshman year. You've got sophomore.
Yeah.
You got to keep revisiting these
and
characters.
Stoker appears in like everything,
Yep.
right?
He's our puck that's going through.
Yes.
Which, if just as I was watching this, I was like, that's perfect for like a sequel for this, like where it's always Stoker being the main thread.
He's the
just shows up in everything.
Yeah, I think that's also a character that shifted based on who we cast. Because I think originally he was even stranger, if I'm being honest. I think he was a little bit like someone you would look askance at. Yeah. And then we cast Samuel, who's like a good-looking guy. And we were like, okay, so maybe it's more that he's got like a cult leader vibe to him or something. You know, he's still a little rougher on the edges, but there's some weird magnetism to him.
Oh, totally.
You know?
Totally. It's like you guys. you kind of hate that guy, but you kind of love him. And I see why it's like, this guy should have graduated a while ago. And like this 29-year-old, 30-year-old guy is flirting with 20-year-old women. But we the way we pitched that character, we would have like little tonal comps in our brain or our North Stars. And he was Wooderson from Dazed and Confused. Like the Mikado was like, what if Wooderson grew a conscience by the end of the movie? And was like, oh God, what have I run? I really gotta get out of here. I'm kind of regretting what I've done. Like, he decides by the end he needs to move on.
But yeah, in an earlier era, this would be Eric Stoltz would have been in this, right?
Oh my God, yes! In the chicken costume or rooster costume.
Yeah. He's the guy who's. That's why I love when he sees the. I hope I'm not giving anything away, but when he says this party sucks, I love this idea that like he's seen this every single year, right? And there's been some kick-ass parties, and this ain't one. Right, and this ain't one of them. Right? Yeah, and I think that's awesome. It's just such a great thread.
Yeah, it's my favorite line in the movie.
Especially the way he delivers it too. It's just like
that way.
He has found his piece.
That was one of. It was one of the last. It wasn't the last, but it was one of the last things that we shot. One of the last things we shot was that. Because
I remember standing there like holding my breath because weirdly, as we were shooting that, the little like tinsel things were like flying up in the screen. We were like, is this going to wipe the screen for us?
Oh my God, it better wipe the screen, and it wipes the screen. You're like, oh, couldn't have set deck that way.
That was incredible.
That line in particular, not to wax poetic about what we made, but like what I like so much about that line is it was a recognition of, and Sam gave us a million, God, he's such a talented actor in that every delivery of every line was completely different from take to take. And he gave us so much to work with, and we have 100 options. And some actors are really, really consistent about they deliver the same good thing. He gives you the widest palette to work with, and he gave us, and what we landed on, and I think we kind of knew it was there, but it took him doing it to find it, was like there was such love and pleasure of him saying, "This party sucks," and he says it with like all
like
the admiration, and he's like, "I love that this party sucks. This is so charming that it's so bad," and it's like that was like it wasn't him disappointed. It wasn't anything. That was nailed it. So good line and good delivery.
That's life, isn't it?
Yeah. So
and knowing when to leave the party, right?
Totally.
Or to not ever show up at all.
The film premiered at the Austin Film Festival, correct?
Yes.
And your premiere at DIFF is tonight, correct?
Our first showing was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
It was during the filmmaker happy hour, so it's no.
So we came out and got drunk while people were watching the movie.
We did not watch it. No.
Well, then how did that premiere go?
Here or at AFF?
No, we know how the one at AFF went. Yes.
Okay.
No, here.
Here. It went okay. It went well.
It went well. Everyone has been so lovely here. And like we have not been to DIFF before, so this is our introduction to it. So I don't know. I was nervous. It's like being a new kid in school. You're like, I don't know anybody, and it was really nice. I was probably 75% full. A lot of laughs.
There. Something surprising about the movie that it proved true during that one as well was this movie is connecting with an older audience than I think we really expected. It's connecting with everybody, and it's for all ages, sales and distribution. But some of our friends and friends of friends and people we've invited out who are 65, 75 plus have come out to the movie and are dying and loving this thing and laughing at a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, I didn't think we were gonna get them to like this movie, and that was awesome. Not that that's a particularly diff thing, it was just about this audience in particular, like really hit with that was really pleasantly surprising.
Well, and I think people have asked us, did you think about incorporating social media? Did you think about making it a little bit more clearly Gen Z and like it's, the jargon or what have you? And aside from a few like improvisations, we were kind of like, one, that's going to be embarrassing if I try to do it. I really do believe that time is a flat circle, man. I do really think that there's more to be. We have more in common, like as our college selves, we have more in common with like current college students, like than we realize. And I don't think, the hairstyles and the clothes and the tech may change, but we wanted to make something that felt timeless rather than timely. And I think we managed to do that. But I'm heartened by the fact that we have people of all ages saying, I responded to this and I identified with this. And that's
way more than we expected.
Surprising, yeah.
Where do you go from here? What's next for Party?
We got a couple more festivals potentially on the horizon.
Fingers crossed.
I don't think we know if we can say them yet, but we got a couple more of those coming up. And then we are in the most exciting part of filmmaking, which is trying to figure out how to sell this thing. So we're talking to sales and distribution. We're doing that stuff now, figuring out where it's going to live on streaming, elsewhere. We're excited. Definitely, it does take longer than you realize, and it always takes longer. Even like some of the projects I've worked on that have much bigger budgets and casts and everything else, it still just takes a long time from finishing the thing to going to the festivals to getting distribution. That like we have all of our aunts and uncles and friends from college. Everybody's like, when can I see it? And it's like, it's just going to take a while. It takes longer than you would ideally hope. So,
and we're also toying with the idea of, in the sort of spirit of the thing, we may do like kind of a roadshow type model, because it is really fun for people to see it in a theater if possible. Like it just comedies, especially like live and die by like the timing and like the audience laughter and things like that. So, we would like to try and do that if we can, but the times are interesting for independent filmmaking. So we are trying to surf the wave as best we can.
if you know how to solve that, you tell us.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Here's our perspectives.
Wait. We asked the questions.
Yeah.
What is going on? Like
Darn.
But I guess that's for this project, and then we're working on our next one. We finished writing our next one a little while ago, and we're sort of sending that around and getting nibbles and bites, and hopefully going to make that next and probably make this just outside Austin. I think probably in Dripping Springs or Georgetown.
Dripping Springs. So we're hoping to film
Gonna maybe
there.
around there.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for that.
Thanks.
After this.
We've got the filmmaking bug now, so unfortunately,
had it for a
that's
while.
it. That's it for us.
no.
That's it for our life. Yeah.
What a way to go, though.
Thank
Right?
you. Yeah, I know. I'm like, this, not so bad. Yeah, we'll live. Yeah. No, we're really fortunate, and we're really pleased with how it's turned out. Also, these have been like the best questions that we have gotten
thank
ever.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not to speak out of turn, but I'm like, really amazing questions. Thank
Don't
you.
insult the other people.
Yeah. Sorry.
You can't. It's enough. Get out.
They won't listen to this anyway. It's fine. It's not
Yeah. There you go.
No, but I think, look, I mean, congratulations on the film and getting it completed. I think this is a film that I cannot imagine won't find its audience. You said standing on the shoulders of giants. I think that it deserves its place up there, and not say this lightly, but I do think that I was watching this, was just so taken with the sincerity of it all. And the genuineness, and I think that's what will make this film stand out. So I mean, fingers crossed, and all things being great. But I do think congratulations to you both, because it's really
Thank you
a
so much.
remarkable film.
Thank you, guys.
And Lindsey, Joey, thank you so much for sitting
Really appreciate
down
taking
with
time.
us
Thank you,
and,
guys.
and taking the time.
Oh my gosh.
Really appreciate
Okay,
it.
now we'll tell you about all the people we didn't like. Once we turn the mics
off mic.
And mute.
No, all the best, right? Best of luck, and we can't wait to watch this
Oh my
again.
gosh. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,